Big April weather changes are moving in rapidly. This comes as a massive cold front is on the way. Temperatures are expected to dip 10 to 20 degrees below average over the central and eastern U.S. for the next couple of days, and after that we will not be done yet. A storm system coming later this week is set to bring impactful conditions and possibly an additional cool down for many by the new weekend. All those details are right ahead in this video, so stick around. Thank you very much for taking the time to join me in this video. I want to start by overviewing the atmospheric pattern and how it will likely dictate what goes on at the surface as we go through the rest of the week ahead. Blues on this map are going to indicate troughs or where the jet stream is expected to dip down. On the flip side, oranges and reds indicate where we're likely going to be seeing ridging, where the jet stream gets pushed north and there is warmer than average temperature conditions. As we go out of our Monday when I'm recording this and into our Tuesday, April 8th of 2025, you can see the general consensus is that we're going to be seeing warmer than average temperatures as we see a pretty dry centered ridge out west. Meanwhile, in the east, we've got this big dip going all the way off the Gulf and Atlantic coasts of the U.S. This is where we're likely going to be seeing temperatures dropping 5, 10, 15, 20 degrees below average by the time we get through Tuesday, if they have not already. Many zones that were hit by the cold front that is now causing this cool down finally getting some relief from the active weather, the flooding, the severe weather, but now we're left with some pretty frigid conditions, especially at night further north you go towards that Canadian border. While we will start to see a little bit of relief from the cooler than average conditions, we'll start to see some warmer than average air push in around Wednesday into Thursday as the ridge out west tries to slide east. Just as that begins, we're actually going to see the same effect that we see around Tuesday, building back into place by the time we go out of Thursday into Friday with a even stronger ridge now building up all the way up into Canada and the western half of the North American continent, and then this huge trough in the east, especially into the southeastern part of the USA as we see a piece of low pressure kind of diving on down and swirling around. That is going to bring yet another cool down, and it is going to be a reinforcing shot of cool air that will last into the weekend. I'll break that down in more detail a little bit later in the video, but let's start now by talking a little bit more about the near-term weather setup. I want to play out the future radar first, then we'll talk about temperatures for the Tuesday night, and then Wednesday night time frame. You can see there's your cold front still impacting parts of the southeast U.S. as I'm recording this video on our Monday evening. We'll still be watching a little bit of rainfall way down there in the far southern part of the Florida Peninsula from the cold front. Otherwise, just dealing with cold, dry air over a lot of the eastern U.S. with the exception of some interior northeast wraparound snow through the day Tuesday. Other than some rain and snow out in the Pacific Northwest, other zones are also dry as well from the southwest and Four Corners up into the Central Plains. A really quiet day of weather, one of the quietest we've seen in weeks ongoing into our Tuesday afternoon, and Wednesday won't be too far different, although we will begin to see the beginnings of that storm system that's going to help in ushering in that secondary cool down later this week, with some isolated showers possible over parts of the north central U.S. with a better chance of that activity and maybe even a couple of thunderstorms that could drop some small hail on over towards some parts of Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana. Generally, nothing looks too concerning as we go through the next couple of days, though. I'll talk a little bit more about the evolution of that storm system out of Wednesday into Thursday and Friday when we get to the back half of this video with the slightly longer range discussion. Now let's talk in a little bit more detail about some of the forecasted high temperatures and low temperatures as we go through the next couple of days, starting with our Tuesday morning, where a widespread freeze is expected as a result of that first cool down over parts of especially the central and northeastern U.S. You can see around and north of that line that I just hashed out, we have a very high probability of frost, if not freeze conditions. So if you have gotten your spring planting underway already, you need to be making sure that you are protecting your sensitive vegetation as temperatures will be around 32, if not well below it, especially as you progress further on up through the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and into the Great Lakes, where 20s and teens will be more common than not as you wake up. Again, this is Tuesday morning. Going into Tuesday afternoon, it will still be a chilly day, especially as you get northeast to places like Missouri and Tennessee. 50s in those zones, a mild day, but as you transition up into a place like Indianapolis and Indiana, we're looking at 44 on Tuesday. We've got 43 there in central Ohio, 30s, breaking record cold highs there as you get on up into some parts of New York. Meanwhile, the ridge out west going pretty strong with plenty of 60s and 70s in the valleys, as well as on up there in the high plains, going all the way on up there closer to that Canadian border already at the early point in the week. Things will only warm up more in many of these zones by the time we get to the end of the week, as I was indicating earlier. Into Wednesday morning, not quite as bad in terms of the chill, especially in some parts of the Midwest, as we'll have some 30s and 40s all the way up to Nebraska and Iowa, but especially around and northeast of this line, still anticipating widespread frost and freeze conditions to be possible, so be on the lookout anywhere from northern Alabama and north Georgia all the way on up there to the Canadian border there in the north northeastern quadrant of the U.S. Wednesday afternoon will be warmer up into some parts of the Midwest, just like the morning was in comparison to Tuesday, but we will not make a full recovery through these 40s, as you can see there in a place like Michigan, before we start cooling down again around Thursday and Friday. And now I want to talk about the storm system that's going to bring that cool down in. Then we'll talk about some of those forecasted temperatures for those days as well. Here we are back on the European Models Future Radar to time out the rest of the evolution of that storm system, set to bring in the bigger cool down once again later this week. And it's especially going to impact parts of the mid-Mississippi Valley and zones east of there. As you can see, by the time we go towards around our Thursday afternoon and evening, we're going to be watching points from Iowa, Missouri, and Arkansas all the way on over to the Appalachians and mid-Atlantic, lighting up with a pretty good chance of some showers and thunderstorms, as low pressure and the associated trough will be pulling on down into these zones, especially there where you see some of those darker greens in a place like Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, through some parts of the Tennessee Valley, even into the southern Appalachians. That's where we'll have the best chance for any storms that we do see getting a little bit stronger to maybe even turn severe with a damaging wind gust or potential of a instance of hail, maybe even a tornado or two. Overall, threats look pretty low for severe weather in a broad stance, though, and the same will go as we push into our Friday, although I wouldn't rule out some severe weather getting closer to the mid-Atlantic, as more heavy showers and storms are likely there, with the low slowly spinning around and slowly bringing in the cool down that will last for a few days over this eastern third of the U.S. Out of Friday into Saturday, more scattered showers and storms possible over some parts of the eastern U.S. Best chance for some rain and maybe even higher elevation snow will be as we go through the day Saturday in places like Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. From there, out of Saturday night into Sunday, as of now, guidance is indicating that we will see a lot of this energy push offshore, and then as we go into next week, we'll see that cool down also do the same, and we'll start to see some warmer than average temperatures filling more spots even into the central and eastern U.S. with time. Now let's talk about that reinforcing cool down and who's going to be impacted the most by that with some of these temperature forecasts from the National Digital Forecast Database for Thursday and Friday. Starting with Thursday morning, you can see how the cold front and associated jet stream dip will already be moving in behind that low pressure in places like Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan. It'll be a cold one in the interior northeast as well already on our Thursday morning, staying below freezing for morning lows in a lot of these zones. It's going to be hard to be above 32 for a wake-up temperature in Michigan every day as we go through the rest of this week, because this second trough will arrive so soon. 40s and 50s further south in a place like Kentucky and Tennessee in our Thursday morning. And by the afternoon, these 60s and 70s we see over a lot of the mid-Mississippi Valley, Ohio, and Tennessee Valleys region will allow for any of those storms that we do see develop to possibly contain some gusty winds, some small hail, as I mentioned earlier. Meanwhile, further out west, we are dealing with the warm conditions. Again, it is a story of ridging and dry conditions pretty much all week out there. Record high temperatures possible through Nevada, the valleys in California, southwestern Arizona, Phoenix. We could be near 100 degrees. That would be near a record high, if not breaking it, as we go through the day Thursday. In the east, though, again, it is going to be cold. Look at this into our Friday morning. Many spots from the north central plains over here into the Midwest, into the Ohio Valley, the interior northeast, nearing frost and freeze conditions as a result of that secondary cool down here once again. And you need to be protecting your vegetation the same way, once again, at least for Friday morning in these cooler zones, as we will see yet another freeze, and that could harm your plants. Here we go towards Friday afternoon. Again, it is so pesky, the cool down up here, for those of you who want spring weather in a place like Michigan or northern Ohio or the interior northeast. These 40s and 50s just hanging on pretty much every day for the rest of the week as a result of troughing. That reinforcing cool down is a nasty thing to see if you live in these zones and you like warmer weather. With that being said, that is all I have for today's video, other than telling you to subscribe so you don't miss videos in the future. I'm not sure exactly when my next update will be, but it will probably be sometime within the next few days. Make sure you're hitting that notification bell and turning it to all notifications right there as you hit that subscribe button right here on YouTube. Even if you are an existing subscriber, it's always great if you can just check that subscribe button and make sure you've also clicked to have notifications on for this channel so you don't miss my evening forecast whenever I post them. With that being said, I'll see you in the next update. God bless.